Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Monday, July 25th. Over the next few days, we will continue to have very hot temperatures across the Great Basin, with temperatures continuing to increase, especially over western and northern areas of the Great Basin, where many areas will see temperatures above 5 to 7 degrees above normal. Otherwise, monsoon moisture has already pushed into the southern areas of the Great Basin, so we will continue to see higher humidity and chances for wet thunderstorms over southern Nevada, the Arizona Strip, and southern Utah. On the northern and western fringes, we will have a mix of wet and dry storms today and tomorrow into western and central Nevada, so we'll have to keep an eye on some areas of the southern Sierra Front as those thunderstorms develop, but some might produce some brief rainfall. Also over parts of eastern Nevada and central Utah as we go into Wednesday, but mostly these thunderstorms will be on the wetter side further south, with precipitation, at least of the heavier kind, being more spotty in areas where these storms develop. Otherwise, winds will remain light over the next couple of days, but very low relative humidity with these hot temperatures over western and northern Nevada up into Idaho. Winds will pick up on Wednesday ahead of a shortwave moving into the Pacific Northwest, so we will see some breezy winds over western Idaho into parts of northern Nevada. Over the last 24 hours, we saw thunderstorm activity over, again, southern areas of the Great Basin, stretching as far north as the northern Ely district. Many of these thunderstorms were on the wetter side, or at least certainly had higher humidity, and then we had a mix of wet and dry storms with not quite as much precipitation up into northern Ely. Great Basin fire activity yesterday was actually fairly light, one of the lighter days we've seen recently, with only 11 new smaller fires reported. Over the last 7 to 14 days, again, precipitation continues across the eastern side of the Great Basin. Over the last week or two, we have seen storms into parts of central and northeast Nevada, producing some precipitation, but still some of the very dry sides include the Sierra Front into northwest Nevada and also into parts of western, central, and eastern Idaho into Wyoming. As a result, 100-hour fuel moistures continue to drop fairly rapidly over the western and northern side of the Great Basin with that dry air in place, with that trend likely continuing over this next week. The satellite loop from this morning shows high pressure building along the west coast. That will continue with that ridge, again, continuing to build very far north with very hot temperatures, especially in the Pacific Northwest, but also into Idaho and Nevada. Looking at the weather pattern for later today, you can see the moisture in place over southern areas of the Great Basin with still very dry air across Idaho. Do not have any high risk for today, as again, much of those thunderstorms will be in areas of higher humidity and on the wetter side. The model depiction of the thunderstorms for today again shows that area over the southern areas of the Great Basin with possibly some into northern Ely again, and maybe some very isolated storms creep into parts of western Nevada, but will be fairly isolated. No issues with winds today. Any winds will be associated with the gusty winds from the thunderstorms. However, very dry air in place again remains over western and northern Nevada up into Idaho, with many areas seeing single-digit relative humidity this afternoon. As we move into Tuesday, a very similar pattern, but that moisture does creep a little bit further north and west towards the Sierra Front. We still have no high risk. We will be keeping an eye on those areas that again have been very dry if we do get some drier type lightning to develop. Otherwise, still expecting wetter conditions with fire potential continuing to decrease over southern areas. Looking at the model thunderstorms for Tuesday, again, you can see over the southern areas of the Great Basin is where we'll expect most of that lightning, but into the Sierra and southern areas of the Sierra Front, we will see that moisture creep north. Again, right now it looks like a mix of wet and dry. We will likely see some higher humidities and some rainfall, but again, we'll be keeping an eye on that for any potential high risk with how critically dry those areas have been. Still no wind issues on Tuesday, just gusty winds near thunderstorms. So relative humidity again over the northern half of the Great Basin remains in the single digits to teens, so very dry conditions with poor overnight recoveries. As we move into Wednesday, again, very similar picture with the moisture over southern and eastern areas. We will continue to see those drier conditions further north. And again, here's the picture of the thunderstorms generally over the southern half to third of the Great Basin. We will see with an area of low pressure moving into the Pacific Northwest, winds kick up a little bit over northwest Nevada into southwest Idaho, with gusts generally in the 20s to right around 30 miles per hour. But again, conditions have been very dry, so if we do see new starts in those areas, they certainly will be impacted. Relative humidity Wednesday still in the single digits to low teens over the northern half of the region. The heat continues. We will see these temperatures climb as we go through the week. So today we will see many valley lows in the 90s to near 100 degrees, but we will peak over 100 degrees in many of the valleys of Idaho, northern and western Nevada as we get into midweek. And you can see obviously the very hot temperatures as you go further north and west towards Oregon and Washington. Forecast amounts of precipitation, everything is tied to that lightning activity and monsoon moisture in southern areas. Then as we go into Thursday, we do have, again, a weak feature moving by to the north. This will potentially cause some thunderstorm activity over parts of central and eastern Idaho into Wyoming. Right now, these thunderstorms look like they will have some moisture with them, but again, with how critically dry everything is up there and with the heat coming prior to the arrival of the thunderstorms, we certainly could see gusty outflow winds and some new starts as well as fire spread in areas that don't receive any rainfall. So we'll be keeping an eye on this area as well, but right now we issued high risk for that threat of incoming lightning. Otherwise, the deeper monsoon moisture stays well to the south. So again, this moisture up north is not tied to the monsoon moisture. As we move into Friday, that moisture quickly moves off to the east with just possibly some remaining thunderstorms in Wyoming and that continued monsoon moisture keeping lightning activity in the south. And then by Saturday into Sunday, we again will see most of the moisture down south, but we could see another feature moving by to the north with any weak upper disturbance possibly kicking up some thunderstorms this weekend over parts of western Nevada, possibly even up into Idaho. Those would be on the drier side, so we'll be keeping an eye on the weekend forecast again in these areas of Idaho and western and northwest Nevada that have been very hot and dry. 7-day total precip, again, most of that precipitation down south, but with that feature moving by across Idaho, maybe some light showers, possibly for the Moose Fire or areas further south and east. The 8 to 14-day outlook, taking us from August 1st through the 7th, shows that monsoon moisture pushing further north and west over many areas of the Great Basin, but still on the western fringes up into central Idaho and western and northwest Nevada is where moisture will be more limited. Otherwise, still warm conditions continue. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.